Hello everyone, and welcome to Twitch Tales, episode 91. Bring me up to date. Where did we leave off in the last episode? Well, Apis has just started a new arc of the campaign, as it were. We wrapped up what we were doing in Drenvale. Drenvale? Drenlark? Why did I name all these things the same thing? Apis has just finished everything they were doing with Seed and Julius and Spear over in Drenvale and the Drenlark Forest, and they went through a mushroom tree network tunnel extra-dimensional space situation to send themselves back to Corintiel. Sure enough, the Myconids on the other end are found in the Dead Woods Forest, just south of Shadridge, north of Fondirg. And when you got there, you noticed that there were some sort of termite people that were expanding the dead woods into the nearby areas. Kind of putting that away in the file facts of the brain, just being like, let's maybe deal with that later. There's more pressing things for now. You avoided the termite people, didn't get attacked, didn't get noticed, and managed to make your way south towards Fondirg. You have arrived at Fondirg, the walled town that is closest to the warfront with the demons right now, and realised on the way, upon discussing with a passerby what the date was, you realised that it's been about 8.5 months since you were last here. So a lot has changed during the war. Not only has the seasons changed, but the people's attitude towards you may have changed as well. Because as you arrived at Fondirg, you were greeted not with excitement that you were here to help them with the war, but with suspicion. It seems these people have been dealing with a lot of shape changes and demons and illusions and people or creatures pretending to be friends when they are actually foe. So you were greeted by a guard, a friend of yours called Joey, a half-elf, and Joey came towards you drawing his sword, and that's where we ended off. So today we begin with you stepping on the north, standing on the north side of Fondirg, a few feet from the front gate, and Joey and two other guards stepping out of this front gate towards you, drawing a sword. He gets to about 10 feet from you and just points it sort of, not threateningly, but definitely in a defensive kind of stance, points it down towards your feet, as it were, just having it ready. The two guards, you notice, immediately start to fan out. It seems like they are well-trained fighters, and they know better than to all stand shoulder to shoulder when there are such things as area of effect spells and such like that. And so they spread out, and they sort of surround you in equal thirds. You also notice, or rather, maybe you won't notice. Let me roll an insight check for you and see if this is something that you actually pick up on. Come on, dice cam, work with me. There we go. Let me make Apis an insight check. Let me shift all these dice out because you're. Some people are quite upset when there are dice in the tray. Alright, so you'll see you have a +2 wisdom and not proficiency in insight. So with your +2 and a nat 1, it seems you are a little tired today. You have just gotten over your bout of poison from the sun sickness that you were feeling as being part myconid now, being partially mushroom. You are sensitive to being in the sunlight for too long. So we're starting the day off strong with a nat 1 as the first roll of the day. You don't manage to pick up on anything about Joey's body language or behaviour or the way that he's dressed or holding himself. You're just kind of taken aback by being met with suspicion, I guess. Joey says, "Welcome back, I suppose." "Joey, hello. I've been away for 8 months. I hear there's someone claiming to be me while I was gone." And Joey says, "Well, that answers my first question, I suppose. You're claiming to be the one that I've met, not the changeling." I'm the original one. Yes, I'm the one that you taught to fight at the gym in town. Right. And you have proof of this, I suppose? What do you guys want to do? He's asking for some kind of proof that you are who you say you are. I have a giant bee. And Joey says, that does not prove anything. A lot of giant bees exist in the world. Your changeling had one too. Okay, you remember how I told you about that dream I had? Yes. What would you like as proof? I've got a dragon boar tusk, a dragon crow feather. You take those out of your bag and you show them off, as you can see in your inventory. Fancy inventory app that hasn't been filled in because I did not have the time. But you do have a dragon boar tusk and feather in your inventory. I'm the one who brought a Sasquatch to the menagerie and stupidly tried to feed it by hand. I heard of that story, but I wasn't there for it. But if I've heard of the story, I'm sure others could have too. Okay, ask me a question about a moment that we shared together alone. The other guards kind of look at Joey as if to be like, how many moments have you shared with this guy alone? He says, what was the name of the entity you said you were visited by after our training together? Religion check? Pathos? Panros? See, Panros. He was a green dragon born in my dream. He gives a very subtle nod to the other two, as if to say that checks out. And then he says, very well. It seems you know a lot of Apus's details. You understand I want to believe you. But this is protocol. Even if I did believe you, I would be going through the proof to check. I'm afraid this is going to hurt a little. And he gives a little wave to the people standing on top of the gate, and the gate opens again. And you see another figure step out of the gate towards you. From your distance from the gate, you recognize this figure immediately. They are only about 2 foot tall, and there are not a lot of people in this town that are 2 feet tall. As she waddles towards you over the distance between you and the gate, you recognize Briar. Briarpatch, one of your druid allies. There is something a little different about her gait. I'm going to ask you for another insight check. With a 17 this time, 17 plus 2, 19, you notice that she is moving with less of a confident stature. She's already only 2 feet tall, but she is moving as if trying to shrink herself away from view, as if she's moving with the hope that the ground may swallow her up. She moves close enough to about 30 feet or so from you, head down, hood up over the face, and then she just kind of puts her hand out in front of her and starts to move around some druidic kind of magic. It seems like she's tracing something out in the air in front of her, and her fingers are being followed by some sort of trail of wispy dust. Then she pushes it up. It forms into like this cylinder shape above her hand, and then she brings it down without looking at you, and you see this beam of light start to appear above you and start to get lighter and lighter. You look up as she casts Moonbeam on you, and I need you to make a dexterity saving throw to jump out of the way of it, unless you wish to just stay here and take it. That is your option. What do you want to do? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Do you wish to just stand here and take it? I say we take it, submit to what they're doing, take it, stay, this is a test, take it. Alright, there's definitely, you are saying yes. Let's just stand here and take it. You see the moonbeam. You know the spell. I think you've seen Briar use it before. Maybe he did warn you that it would hurt. She casts moonbeam and forces you to take. Where are my d10s? There they are. 1 and 2. You take 2d10 moonbeam damage, radiant damage. That is just 11 points of damage. Thankfully, you're currently at full, so it takes you down to 74. You take 11 points of radiant damage, and as per the secondary effect of the spell, it forces any shape changes to be forced back into their original form. It's one of the spells that you can use to guarantee that the thing you're talking to is not some kind of shapeshifter. Toad's going to puke though. Aim for Joey. Thankfully for you, it is moonlight, not sunlight, and so the mushroom nature of your body does not suddenly act up again. You don't get the sun sickness, the sun brightness. The feature of sun sickness is specifically says when you are in bright light created by sunlight, not moonlight. You are subject to this effect. They all kind of, you noticed as you're about to get blasted with moonbeam, all three of the guards are kind of on guard in case suddenly you turn into this monster and they have to leap forward and attack. But once nothing happens, the moonbeam, she drops it immediately after a few seconds, and then she turns without saying a word and starts to shuffle back towards the gate. And Joey says, "Right you are. We apologise for the inconvenience, but one must be sure." And then he sheathes his sword, puts his hand out to shake your hand, and says, "Let me say it truthfully now. Welcome home, Apis." Do you take his hand? Do you say anything? It is, just to remind you, just after nightfall, so in winter, so it's probably around 5 p.m, give or take. Well, it's good to see you guys too. Wait, Briar, where are you going? You shake his hand. What have I missed? If it helps, I have an ability that can detect fiends without blasting your friends. It obviously will help, yes, but unfortunately there is an element of trust. An effect such as this, we can all see if you've succumbed to it or not. If we cannot see your effect, I'm not sure what it is, but if it's something that you can just tell that something is amiss, then I'm afraid it would likely not go over well with the Colonel. It's more important that we can trust the person we are, who is telling us that the person we are speaking with is a fiend or not. So, what's happened while I've been gone? Seems like a lot. You have split focus, and you called out to Briar, and she didn't answer you. She just walked back towards the gate, and it opened up and let her back in again and closed up behind her. I understand. I'd be suspicious too in your situation. I feel like Zone of Truth would hurt less. He said, yes, unfortunately clerics are a little light on the ground at the moment. Druids we have, but Zone of Truth comes with its own problems. Not only can someone resist it, but they can manipulate the wording used to still get around it. Besides, with a Zone of Truth, there still includes the element I was discussing, which is that one must trust the person who is casting it to be telling the truth as well. This is why Shanta and her people tend to use an entire system of clerics for the justice system. God, Joey, just live a little, mate. This entire place needs a solid trust fall exercise, right? They just need to trust. They're only in the middle of a war with demons. You can go after Briar and catch up with Joey later, yes, if you wish to. But it seems that other people are still asking Joey questions, so you may be in the minority redial. Who is the colonel? You say. Colonel, what's his name? Glenmere or something? Colonel. NPCs of Fondirg. Corporal. Sorry, Corporal, not Colonel. Corporal Gellaby. He hates when I call him Colonel. Corporal Gellaby. He's in from the Royal Cross. He's in from the Knight's Guard. Chat with Briar? No, Joey. I meant chat with Joey. Chat with Joey about Briar. You say, right. Corporal Gellaby's the one in charge here. He likes to think he is, yes. He has certain jurisdiction here now, yes. How's Vala doing? She's thriving. She's her assistance is invaluable to the war efforts, and she's seemingly gotten very used to her new body. For the context of anyone who missed it, Vala is a wizard that works at a wizard guild here in town, and she died during a fight with the Green Dragon, and the town voted to bring her back with a reincarnation spell, which gave her a new body. Luckily for her, she rolled a random new body and got pretty much exactly what she was before. She was still female presenting, still human, still similar age, even similar hair color and skin type and stuff. So she came back with a body that was very similar to the one she actually had before, luckily for her. So it didn't take as much to get used to this new body. Did the King's men go home after Luciferic? They did, yes, but it wasn't very long before they were back. As soon as the war with the demons started to become a problem up in Shadridge, the Royal Cross was sent back here in much greater number this time. It seems the king had more of an interest in preventing demons than he did about a dragon. Understandably, I suppose. Who was the store owner that we went on a date with? That was a lady called Sam. She ran a hunting shop here in town. I've got some information about where these demons are coming from. Maybe I can go chat with the corporal and get caught up. I think that's a good idea. Yes. Open the gates. They open the gates, and the three guards and you start to wander back inside. You see that Fondirg still looks very much like it did before, but it's the streets are a little bit more well lined. There's sand down between the cobblestones to make a smoother, less jostling journey of the horses and carts that are currently constantly going back and forth to Shadridge. The buildings are all still intact. There's a couple more temporary buildings up in the wider of the streets, like down the middle of the streets. There's a couple more temporary residences, like basically tents and things. It seems the population of Fondirg has increased, while the residences are not as increased. There's a lot more population here that is temporary because they are the visiting army, the occupying army, essentially. Did you guys happen to get approached by a force of hobgoblins? How did that go? We're working with the hobgoblins. Yes, they will know more about that up in Shadridge. The hobgoblins haven't come down to Fondirg. They have no need to, but they have retreated back as far as the four sister villages and Shadridge. And the hobgoblins are working with the people of our front lines. Should we be discussing this in the open? This is all people here are discussing at any time. Basically, the population has decreased of Shadridge's general residents as the people have fled south, understandably. The residences that people have evacuated have been taken over by the occupying army as well. So most people here are well aware of what is happening in the war. I suppose we've lost a lot to this war. Where's the front? Is it Shadridge? Is Shadridge still standing? Shadridge is standing, yes, it is well fortified now. Well, much better than it was a few months ago. How long has it been since you were here? You say about 8 months. He only disappeared around 3 weeks ago. The fake me, the changeling. Yes, he disappeared around 3 weeks ago. We sent an investigation team after him, and after them, I suppose. About 2 weeks ago, we sent an investigation team. Corporal will get you caught up, I'm sure. I prefer to chat with Vala and Smacklebum at the very least. Is there any way to get a meeting rather than a one-on-one? Yes, we will. We will arrange now that you're home. We will arrange a meeting to get everyone caught up. Just so you don't have to be wandering around everybody individually. I'll get all of the important players of Fondirg in one place, and you can just exposition dump on all of them, and vice versa. Is Shadridge okay? Define okay. It is standing, and we are occupying it. The demons rarely make it all the way to Shadridge. The four sister towns are in much worse position. They are much more the actual war front. Shadridge is sort of the resource, the last encampment and bastion that we are holding. So are my friends from Shadridge here? Some of them are. Some of them refuse to leave. Some of them are actually performing vital services to our men up in Shadridge. So I have to ask then, the fake me, what did they do? At this point, you've arrived at the town hall in the centre of town, and you've noticed that it is cordoned off, like the town square is cordoned off to military use only. And Joey explains to the guard on duty who you are and why you're here and stuff, and pops underneath the cordon and starts walking you into the town hall. On the way, he's sent off a couple of his messengers. At this point, you notice the thing that you missed with the Nat 1 insight earlier. Joey is now wearing a red cape. For those who know, let's see, roll a history check to see if you know, because you're not a Knight of Kvosna, but you should remember something about them. History check, that is a Nat 20. Nat 20 plus 3 on your history. That is a 23. You know that the red cape means that he has been promoted to the rank of Wolverine. Within the Knights of Kvosna, with a Nat 20 plus 3, you know that the ranks of the Field Knights, the sort of guards that actually go out there and deal with things on the day-to-day basis rather than the admin side of things, the Field Knights rank from Badger. Well, they start at Prospective Squire for like teenagers and people who are brand new to it, to be like, maybe you're gonna be a good cop, maybe not. Then they get promoted if they get accepted into the program, as it were. They go from Prospective Squire to Squire. Squire is no cape at all, but they just kind of like, you're an intern, I suppose. You follow people around and make sure that you understand what the business actually takes before you commit to it. Once you have gone past Squire and you realise that this is something that you really want to commit to, and you really want to be a cop, for a fantasy cop, as it were, then you become a Badger. Badger is the lowest rank of Field Knight. Then you get promoted from Badger to Wolverine, from Wolverine to Lion, and from Lion to Dragon. And so he is a rank of Wolverine, which is usually as high as it gets within any town. Basically, the Wolverines are the ones that are in charge of the rest of the Badgers of town. Badgers are the level of like just town guard. If you actually go out of a town guard situation and you go and like track down problems and you deal with the problems outside of the town, then you're more likely to be a Wolverine, or even higher than that. Like if you're an adventurer and you happened to join the Knights of Kvosna, if you were an adventurer and you went out adventuring, someone of your level would probably be verging on Wolverine becoming a lion. Someone of about the level you're at would be about the level that people become lion. And then if you get promoted again, then we're talking like level 15 and above. It's kind of like the dragons of the Knights of Kvosna. They're very rare that they exist, because they're usually going out fighting liches and dragons and beholders and stuff, and so many of them die. But yes, you notice that at this point that Joey has been promoted to Wolverine. He's now in charge of more people in the town. You say, I see you've been promoted. Congratulations. And he says, oh, yes, a couple of months ago, actually. I forget that you haven't seen it, because you congratulated me at the time as well. Right. I want to hear what the Changeling did first, before talking about what we believe in terms of who sent it. You were saying about what the Changeling did when they were being me. He says, they were you. They did everything you would do. We had no reason to be suspicious of the fact that they weren't you. They acted like you, they talked like you, they had a, I don't know if they had Mel or a version of Mel. And Mel says, well, you ask Mel in Sylvan, and she says, I was not here with them, I don't know what is... I don't have any remembrance of what was there. And you're like, yeah, no, Mel doesn't remember being here because she was with me, and it doesn't sound like she was in two places at once. She doesn't have the memory of it anyway. She remembers being with me. And he goes, well, they had a changeling bee as well, I guess, or like an illusion of a bee. I don't know. but they acted like you. They helped with the war effort. They assisted. I assume he's been promoted because of other deaths. It's probably not necessarily a point of pride. You assume correctly, High Tech. He is a good officer, but they are in a situation of like, we need someone in this role, and other people are starting to fall off a little bit. What are the other colours of the capes? A badger is a blue cape. A badger is blue. Wolverine is red. Lion is, I want to say, silver, and dragon is, I think, gold. I know who sent the other me. They had good intentions. He stops and says, "Well, that's definitely something that you should tell the corporal about." And at this, he's waiting by the interior door of the corporal's chambers, as it were, which used to be Mayor Chuffy Garden's chambers. It seems that the corporal has taken over the mayor's office. Did they do anything to Briar? Oh. Right, yes. Probably best for them to tell you themselves. And then he opens the door and lets you inside. You walk into the chambers and you see a long desk, kind of like in fact, it's the same table that you would have seen when you were in this same room for the aftermath discussion as to which of the town members to bring back to life after Lucifreak's battle, and we decided to bring back Mel. We decided to bring back Vala. It's the same table, big long table. He is currently in a bit of a hush discussion down the end with some more advisors and such. And then when he sees you enter, Joey behind you says, "Sir, this is Apis Hive. You told me to bring them immediately if they ever returned. We vouched for them, and Briar has performed the moonbeam. They are who they say they are." And the corporal says, "Right, well, it's damn good to hear it too." And he stands up again and says, "Leave us alone for a second, would you?" He dismisses the two advisors who sort of get up and grab their papers and stuff and start to shuffle out. And on their way out, he says to them, "Could you fetch Vala and Pertran too?" And Joey says, "They're already been called for, sir." "Is right you are then." Joey gives a salute, and they close the doors behind themselves, and it leave you just in the room with the corporal alone. And Mel, obviously, who now has a perch on your backpack, so she can just follow you into places without being a disruption to people. "I reckon when we meet, we tell them that we learned about the demon portal and went to find help from an archfey acquaintance. They sent fake us to help while we were gone, and hey, we know how to close the portal now." Yeah, that sounds pretty good. You look around the room. Last time I was in here. So I understand Apis Hive, yes? He wanders around the table to you and offers his hand. He's a tall gentleman. Now that he's standing up, you can tell he's about 6'2". He's got a large belly on him and a huge mustache that kind of covers his mouth slightly as he speaks. He's well dressed in obviously military gear. And he's got the insignia that denotes him as a high-ranking official. "It's nice to meet you." You shake his hand, and he says, "Not a military man, I suppose." You say, "Not a man at all, sir." And he says, Right you are. Take a seat." And he offers you a seat up the top end of the table. As he sits down right at the very head of the table, as it were, you can sit on his right-hand side. If you want to. You don't need to sit down if you don't want to. "I don't trust the King's Cross, but something about this guy makes me like him." Yeah. Fair enough. "I want to try and put a seat in our pack." Why? Do you take a seat? Yeah? You sitting down? "Not a military person, though, just someone trying to do what I can to help." "And we need as many of those as we can at the moment. You're not the first mercenary to be working with us. The first outsider, as it were." Waiting for the others before sitting down feels like what Apis would do. Yeah, that sounds about right, I suppose, yeah. Oh, you want to take a seat as in it's now ours. I get you. He sounds all bluster and no form. He could be. Well, you either sit or don't, but it's not long before the doors open again, and he's basically just been making small talk with you, asking you, how long you've been in Fondirg and stuff like that. He's not like getting down to business until the people he's asked to be here arrive. It's not long before the doors open, and in walks Pertran. To give him his full name, Pertran Diddle Jibsworth Leon Findle Smith Gregory Smacklebum. He's a male rock gnome. If the name didn't give it away, and he's the head of the Knights of Kavosna here in town. So, to give you guys, especially with your Nat 20 plus 3 on your history check of how the Knights work, to remind you, or to tell you if you haven't heard before, the Knights of Kavosna are kind of like the law enforcement all over town, all over this particular country. On top of that, there is the Royal Cross, which is sort of like a branch of the Knights of Kavosna, but like an elite branch. They are kind of like the FBI to the police, I guess. They generally work for the king, the royal family, and anything relating to national security. Within the... is the 23 enough for this? You have heard, I'm going to say 23 is enough to say that you have heard that there's an even more elite branch of the Royal Cross, but you can't remember what they're called at this point. So this guy is currently outranking Pertran Diddle, but Diddle is still the one in charge. Pertran Diddle Smacklebum is still technically in charge of the town and the day-to-day runnings of law enforcement stuff in the town, because obviously that doesn't go away when there's a war. Law enforcement still needs to happen, but there's currently someone outranking him in terms of everything of the bigger picture, the war-related things. Everyone wanting to take a chair has spent too much time in the Feywilds, yes. So Pertran Diddle walks in and says you, Apis! Well, I never. I thought after you disappeared, we wouldn't see you again. And you say, well, I mean, do you mean when I disappeared the first time or the second time? Because the second one wasn't actually me. And he says, no, I've been told. He walks over to you and offers a hug, which is a little unusual for him. Like your relationship with Pertran was a little bit strained a couple of times because you kind of asked him for money when he was asking for favors, sort of thing. But ultimately, he knew that you helped out the town with dealing with the Luciferic Green Dragon problem and stuff. But he is a little bit more warm to you now. It seems like maybe he got a little bit more close with your counterpart, your faux as people are calling them, or fake piss. That sounds like fake piss. Let's not call it that. It seems like maybe he has a relationship with you now that's almost parasocial. Like he has ended up making a closer relationship with your counterpart when you weren't actually a part of that relationship. Awkward hug time. It's up to you. Go in for a handshake and have one of those awkward greeting moments. Yeah, you handshake as he goes to hug, and he grabs your hand and shakes you. Napis, I quite like. He goes and shakes your hand, and then he takes a seat next to you. He pulls a chair out and just like hops right up into it. He can barely see over the table, but he's used to sitting in a higher chair up the far end of the table where the heads of things sit. So Pertran walks in, then the door opens again, and the mayor walks in. Mayor Truffy Gardens. He is apparently still the mayor of the town, but if he is upset at the fact that Corporal Gellaby has taken his office, he's not showing it. The mayor, Truffy Gardens, to remind you, is a hobbit, a halfling man, and as he walks in, he's dressed in his regalia, he's dressed in his mayor chain and some furs, especially some thick warm furs, and he's taking off some gloves as he walks in because it's currently winter. He places his gloves down in a deep pocket, and he walks over and greets you as well with a big sort of halfling welcome. And finally, as he takes a seat on the left-hand side of the corporal, in walks Vala as well. Vala is a human woman, middle-aged, and a little larger than the original body that she had. Slightly more filled-out natural build to her. She walks in dressed in her purple gown that is a custom for a lot of the wizards here in town, especially the ones that work for the Arcanists Entente. And after greetings and welcomes, she takes a seat as well. And so the 5 of you are sitting around this table, ready to exposition dump on one another, essentially. That sounded gross. You say, look, I hope the false me didn't alarm you all too much. Apparently an acquaintance of mine took it upon himself to send you a replacement while I was away. I didn't find out until after Vala's message, seeing that I was still there when I wasn't. Probably not a bad idea to be checking up for impersonators anyway with the demon problem, though. And Vala says, yes, it certainly was. It certainly was an eye-opening situation that demons may be among our midst. I am glad to say that it was a wake-up call for us that we managed to raise to the occasion of. We started training each of the druids in the moonbeam spell each morning, and ensuring that they use them at any available opportunity with people that cannot otherwise prove who they are. You see, the problem is, and the corporal speaks up and sort of interrupts her. Yes, the problem is, though, normally in a situation like this, one would use secret codes, words that only you would know. But when one is fighting demons, one has to be aware that they have minds that can manipulate one's mind. They can force you to tell them things that you would not always normally do. So they can read your mind or force you to tell them code words and such. Have you found any imposters since? No imposters here in Fondirg, no, but in Shadridge that's a different story. There have been others infiltrating Shadridge's forces that we have since found. I see. Remind them about our ability to check for fiends, because that freaked them out last time. Yeah, you remind them that you can, if wanted, limited times a day, because it's exhausting to do so too often. But you can actually just request the gods and the universe itself tell you if there are any fiends in the room. And you're welcome. You're happy to offer them that service, that skill. Right you are. Then Vala says, I've heard of this magics and I've been witness to it. I can vouch for its viability. Any of the imposters among town found amongst the people that we know up in Shadridge? He checks his notes. Let's see what he checks his notes. He says, yes, there was a hobgoblin gentleman, I think. Did you know a hobgoblin by the name of Grobok? Grobok, for you, it hasn't been that long, so yeah, I'll say that you need it. You know it without a check needed. Grobok is the hobgoblin that you spared. You spared the life of. He attacked you. He attacked you and your werefox friend Mosh, thinking that Mosh was a demon. It came out in the wash, essentially, that it was a misunderstanding. The hobgoblins, although not a very nice people, are temporarily on your side in a very much an enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of a way. He tried to capture Mosh, thinking that he was a shape-shifting demon, misunderstanding that he was actually a werewolf, a werefox. And in the fight that ensued, I believe his partner was killed, but you let Grobok live in return for some information. And then he went off into the forest. Well, apparently, according to the corporal's notes, Grobok was a shapeshifter, working for the demons. You're not sure whether that means at the time that you knew him, or whether it means now. Actually, thinking about it, I think Grobok was there when you did a detect fiends situation in the entrance cave of Munglofau, the Drow village, and so when it returned saying there were no demons, you get the impression that at that time, at least, Grobok was not a fiend. So at some point since then, Grobok has been turned into a fiend, or Grobok has been killed and replaced by a shape-shifting fiend, something like that apparently. All the corporal's notes are otherwise informed. That'll teach us to spare people. Let's propose it and say that we're doing it beforehand so they can be sure everyone here is who they say they are. If you'd like, I could do that now, just to make sure that everyone in the room is who they say they are. And Vala says, I have no objections to this. They look around. Nobody has any objections. Right you are, I'd be interested to see how this works. You see his hand subtly just go down to like a sidearm just by his side, just in case anything goes wrong here, or in case this is a ploy to cast something else. He's just kind of getting himself ready. And then you are going to cast Primeval Awareness, it seems. Is that what people want? That's what the majority of Apis is cool for. Basically what this is a ranger ability. It just marks off one of your 4 level 1 spell slots. You think about a particular radius, and you think about a particular type of creature. And if there is that type of creature in that particular radius from you, then it just tells you yes or no. Alright, everybody is cool with yes, so we are going to mark off one of the spell slots. Bling! So you've cast your spell. You need to choose for a particular type of creature, which I'm assuming you mean fiends. You're just going to choose for fiends and demons. And then you need to pick a particular radius. Are you interested in the entire city? Are you interested in just this room? Are you interested in the guards outside the door? Keeping in mind that when you get your response, it does not say where they are, it does not say how many they are, it just says yes or no, there are fiends in this area. I'd say just this room first, and then the whole town afterwards. I mean, you could do it the other way around, Redal, because if you do the whole town first, and it comes back with no, there are no fiends in the town, you've already got your answer about the room. If we check the entire city and we get a yes, we're going to cause chaos. Room and guards. Rooms first, okay to include the guards if the others want that. We don't want to have to use 2 spell slots for this. I say town first, just this room. Alright. Thumbs up if you offer to check the entire town first. Thumbs down if you want to just check the room. Use your emotes. Thumbs up for the entire town, because that's the larger option. Thumbs down for the scaled down option of just the room. Not all the way down, but just this building, yeah. The smaller option, I suppose. Alright, the majority saying yes, though. We do want to offer the entire town. You say to these guys, I can check for the entire radius of the town if you like. Is that going to be helpful if I just check to see if there's any fiends in the entire town? And he says, I mean, yes, of course. We would want to know if there's any fiends have slipped past our defences. He is all for it, and Vala does, Chuffy Gardens, I think the mayor would be the one to sort of raise the fact that, Eric, I'm nervous here. He says, I should point out though, like if we get an affirmative response here, are we equipped to actually deal with that? Like, is that something are we not going to cause chaos? And Pertran says, that's a very good point, but I mean, I'd rather know than not know, even if it has to stay within us, within this room until we can deal with it somehow. I'd rather still know. And just a note as well, I can't tell if they're I can't tell exactly where or how many, but I can just tell if they exist within a particular radius. You explain how it works, and they're all fine. They're all fine with you at least trying. To remind you as well that there is or at least there was 8.5 months ago, there was a thieves guild here in town called the Steel's Edge, and the Steel's Edge was led by a gentleman called the Fiend. You don't know why he had the name the Fiend. You don't know if he was actually a fiend, but he is potentially still in town. You don't know. So if you do get a yes, it could be him. So as you think of the entire radius of the town, you feel what it feels like to be around fiends. You've been around demons before. You've fought them with the Gravedigger. You think about how it makes you feel, how it makes your skin crawl, and how it makes you feel just sickly and gross. And you start to feel that feeling creeping down from the back of your neck and across your shoulders and into your arms. You start to feel, yes, there is at least one fiend somewhere within the city walls of Fondirg. Hunt party! You just look at them sadly, don't say anything. Grimace. You just hear Vala say, well, fuck. I've got some bad news for you. How many? I just said I don't know how many there are. Where are they? I just said, don't know. It doesn't tell me how many or where. Well, that's very convenient, isn't it? Actually, no, it's highly inconvenient. I can tell you that there is at least one fiend somewhere in the city. If you'd like, I suppose it's up to you guys, really. Do you want to check this room now? See if one of the fiends is one of the people in the room? I can check this building next, or the room that we're in, and see that at least we're safe. What time of day is it? It's getting towards late evening. It's like 6 p.m. or so. Alrighty, we're going to check this building now. So are you going to... I mean, you still have 5 spell slots left for the day. So theoretically, you could cast it 5 more times if you really want to. So do you want to check the city block that you're on, like somebody suggested? Like get closer and closer to your current location and see if there's a fiend in this radius, this radius, this radius, and kind of like a concentric circle. At that point, you'd be like, okay, there is not a fiend within within like 100 meters of here, and therefore it's somewhere between 100 meters and the city walls. What do you want to do? What radius do you wish to check now? Check the building. They want to know if there's any in their own space first. Maybe just that area that's cordoned off for official purposes. Alright, yeah, that sounds pretty smart. We'll do that one. Rule out the immediate threat first. Alright, so you are going to mark off another spell slot. You kind of shake off that feeling, that icky feeling of the fiend being in Fondirg. You also try and shake off the implications of that yes, there is some kind of fiend that has infiltrated Fondirg, even with all of their resources trying to prevent people from coming in. You can't help but think that the fiends that you fought during the fight with Gravedigger, the ones that were trying to tear you apart and ended up like getting stuck on Mosh because they couldn't get through to him because he's a werefox and so he was immune to a lot of their scratches and stuff. You noticed that those ones could fly, and so you think maybe there's a chance that something has just flown over in the middle of the night, like over the wall when the human eyes aren't so good at seeing in the dark. Maybe something has snuck in that way. Whatever it is, now's not the time to think about that. You just try and like put your radius out. You think about the area of this building, so the room, the building, and the area just outside of this building that is basically the town square, the city block that you're currently on. Does that area have any fiends currently inside of it? And you get an icky feeling that definitively comes back as a yes. There is a fiend, at least somewhere, in the area of the cordoned off military area of this city. Oh, come on! Time for a perimeter lockdown. You explain this to them. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Do you want to do just this building that you're in, or just this room that you're in, or not at all now? Now ping the room and the guards. The lockdowns should be in order. Lockdowns should be in order. There is a fiend somewhere in this in the cordoned off area of your city, the city block. How sure are we? I cannot be more sure. Alright, seems like the room is the next choice, so you are going to mark off another spell slot and think again as the corporal gets up and starts to walk towards the door to tell the guards that shit's happening. You quickly cast it again to make sure that he's not leaving the radius, You see his behavior and like, is this something I should be worried about? He's starting to leave the radius of your spell, as it were, and you cast this primeval awareness, putting your efforts out into the world to just tell you, like, just to call on nature. What does it feel like when a fiend is around? If a fiend was in the room with me right now, how would that feel? And you get a sense of, yes, there is a fiend somewhere in this room with you. Not even the guards outside. Just in this room with you, there is a yes. Who is here? To remind you, there is you. There is Vala, the head wizard of this town. There is the mayor, Mayor Chuffy Gardens. There is the head of the Knights of Kavosna, the police guard, essentially, which is Pertram Diddle's something Smacklebum. And there is the new corporal that you've only just met now, who is apparently the corporal of the head of the Royal Guard. Don't leave, you shout. I'm afraid you cannot give me orders, sir. If there is a fiend in this building, I wish to know about it. And he puts his hand on the door. Close the door. We don't know who to trust. What race are they all? The corporal is a human. The mayor is a hobbit. The head of Kavosna is a gnome, and Vala is also a human. And you are a dwarg. Mel, sleep spores at the ready. Nobody leaves this room. There's a fiend in the room. If you leave, I'll shoot. You stand to your feet and grab your bow. He turns around and grabs his sidearm. Vala stands up and like pushes her chair back and says, "No need for that!" And she kind of puts her hands up like, "Whoa, let's not fucking jump to things here." Everybody is on edge now and ready for a fight, it seems. There is a fiend in this room. Insight on all the people in the room? You can certainly try. Let's have a look. See if you can learn anything about anybody in the room. A general insight check, that is a 6 plus your 2 from insight. That is an 8. You insight from that everybody is on edge and everybody is suddenly very suspicious of everybody else in the room. Vala, can you message a druid to join us for the moonbeam? We need Briar now. The corporal looks to you, looks to the others. Very well. Vala, message Briar. We need her here for the moonbeam. He just repeats your order, but like he's the one who's giving the order, so it feels like you need to listen to me. I'm the one who's, that was a good idea, but I have the ideas here, okay? I'm in charge. Kind of attitude. Do you have a way to detect invisibility with tremor sense? Very good idea. You are on worked stone, so I'm going to say it's the radius is not as great as it would be if it was unworked stone. Your connection to the land as a dwarg comes from your connection to unworked stone for the most part. But you still do tap down into the tiles of the floor here, and you don't sense, in the small radius of this, you don't sense anybody in this room that isn't seemingly who seems to be here. You could walk right up to the corporal, make the radius just like 5 feet, and test it just on the corporal if you want, with your last first level spell slot. You'd still have 2 second level spell slots if you wanted. While you keep your weapons pointed, you say, Vala, what did I ask you to do last time we spoke? Now, Redial, I don't remember what you asked to do, but Vala would. So what was it that you asked her to do? About the braces? Ask her to like keep the braces for you or something, or make the braces into the green braces into braces of sending, right? Save the spell slots for a potential fight. All right. Do we have any visual that Vala is sending a message? You ask Vala this, and she says, when we last spoke, what about the braces? It's hard for me to know what you. It's hard for me to know what you asked me when we last spoke, Apis, because we didn't. I've been interacting with your fake counterpart for months now. And then she says, "Give me a second to contact Briar here." And she traces a little symbol in the air in front of her, which kind of like lights up in this golden light, and then she speaks directly into it. Briar, come to the mayor's office immediately. Bring other druids if you can. but only if they're on the way. And then she sends it, and you see this kind of... It seems to wisp upwards towards the ceiling, but it disappears before it hits the ceiling. She says, Briar's on her way, hopefully. And then she stops for a second. Yes, she's on her way. If Briar turns up, she has cast it. What's the shady mayor been doing this whole time? He's just, like, he's a hobbit fella, so he's like 3 foot tall, and he's just kind of like hopped off of his seat and kind of scooched himself back towards the corner of the room because he doesn't want to be involved in a fight. He has no fighting skill. Everybody else here can handle themselves in a fight, at least somewhat. But the mayor is just an administrator. Valley was happy for you to cast the detection spell. Yes, that's right. So it's unlikely that it was her unless she was like double bluffing to be like, oh, I'm fine with you casting. Hopefully, hoping that you'd be like, oh, if she's fine, then I won't cast it. Could have been a long con, I suppose, that didn't play off for her. What do we know about the fiends? Do they have a blood of a different colour? Depends on the fiend, really. You have noticed that some people do cut themselves and show red blood just to show that you're not a shifter of some kind. But it's not always foolproof, you imagine. Vala, can you detect if there's any invisible beings in this room? Let's see. Does she have see invisibility prepared? Let me just double check what see invisibility is as a spell. I think it's a... Is it a 2nd level spell? 3rd level spell? Let me just open up the spells tab. Spell name. Invisibility. Was it the mayor who is possibly related to the fiend? Yes, the mayor strikes a familial resemblance to the hobbit that was the fiend. See invisibility is a 2nd level spell. It is a divination spell. Divination isn't her strong suit, so I'm going to say that there is a 20% chance that she has it prepared today. And with a 46, she says, "No, I do not have that prepared. However, there is a gentleman. She has someone in town that has arrived with the rest of the knights. That is a divination wizard, Godfrey." She says, "There is not a. I do not have a spell that can allow me to do so." Oh, there's a chance she's got Detect Thoughts, which can do the same thing. And there's a much higher chance of that, I'd say. I'm going to say there's a 50% chance she's got Detect Thoughts. With a 43, she does. She goes, I can contact Godfrey. He's got the divination magics for... Oh, wait. I can just detect if there's thoughts in the area. And she picks out of her pocket a copper piece and just like turns it over in her hands, kind of like a poker chip between her fingers. She flicks it around back and forth. She fiddles with it a bit while she's speaking to herself under her breath with sort of arcane words, and then she holds it, and suddenly she can detect the thoughts of everybody in the room. And by detect thoughts, I know that there's something in that spell that says something about being able to detect if there's invisible thinking creatures. Let me just look up the wording of it. Detect thoughts. For the duration, you can read the thoughts of certain creatures. You can focus your mind on any one creature you can see. Blah, blah, blah. Just learning the surface thoughts, blah, blah, blah. You can also use this spell to detect the presence of thinking creatures that you can't see. When you cast the spell, or as your action during the duration, you can search for thoughts within 30 feet of you. The spell can penetrate barriers, but 2 feet of rock, 2 inches of any metal other than lead, or a thin sheet of lead will block you. You cannot detect a creature with an intelligence of 3 or lower, or one that does not speak any language. Once you detect the presence of a creature in this way, you can read its thoughts for the rest of the duration as described above, even if you can't see it, but it must still be within range. So as she casts this detect thoughts, from her perspective, obviously you're not hearing this as Apis, but from her perspective she's hearing all the thoughts, the surface level thoughts of everybody in the room, too muddled to sort of focus in on any one of you. She'd need to do that with her action, but she is particularly looking for other thoughts. She's trying to pick out and remove the voices that she understands and hears from the other 5 people in the room, the other 4 people in the room, and listen for a 5th. Is there a 5th person in the room? And you see her turn towards the corner of the room in which nobody seems to be standing. and then she just puts out her hand and explodes a ray of a cone of cold. Whoosh! She just like turns and whoosh! This cone of ice seems to shoot from the edges of her hand and fire towards a seemingly empty part of the upper corner of the room, up near the ceiling. And I need a dexterity saving throw for this guy. Ooh, he succeeds. Whoosh! You see this shimmer of something invisible seem to get hit and peppered by these like ice shards as this critter is getting peppered with ice. Is it enough to kill him, even if he succeeds his save? Let me see. Cone of cold. Cone of cold. Somebody blocked the door. Currently, the corporal is still standing with his hand on the doorway. Luckily, you stopped him before he opened the door, because as soon as this invisible quasit was like, oh fuck, they realise I'm here, the quasit was going to be like, oh fuck, let's get out of this door. And he was standing like right by the door, basically in the same corner as the wall that the door's on, to be like, as soon as he opens that door, I'm out. And then you were like, don't open that door. A blast of cold air erupts from your hands, blah, blah, blah. 8d8 cold damage. Yeah, this quasit's going to be dead even if he succeeds. Oh, and it was a con save, so he succeeded it either way. Half as much on a success, so I could roll really low, I suppose. Let me just get my 8d8 and half it. 1, 2, 3. What if that's my fourth? Alright, so the first 4 is... Nope, that's enough. So that'll be 15, 16, 17, 18. That's 18, so it's already 9 points of damage. And then another 13, another 6 is another 19 halved. So he takes like 19 points of damage or something. A bunch of the room is also subjected to this amount of cold damage, but hey, that'll be able to be fixed. So as this quasit seems to dart out of the way, invisible and kind of just holding itself up against the corner of the room, you've no idea how long it's been here, but it seems like it's a spy that has been listening into military discussions for a significant amount of time. And as it darts out of the way, its body gets peppered with enough ice shards. It's a large enough cone that it can't get out of the way enough. It gets hit, it gets exploded and popped essentially, and it just turns into this ichory black goo that just kind of semi-freezes in the cone of cold and then falls to the ground. At the casting of this spell from Vala, the corporal has raised out his longsword and like gone towards her because it was like, oh shit, it's going off. He also calls for the guards, guards, as she casts, and then he looks towards the quasit that hits the ground as the doors burst open and the guards come running in. They've got weapons drawn and they're looking around, and he says, stop. Is that the only one? And she goes back to detecting thoughts. And now she's got 2 more thoughts from the guards coming in outside. That's all there is, unless they can avoid being heard. I heard his thoughts. It was terrified that I was about to find him, and it said it was like I've got to make a run for it or something. And thankfully I had a large enough area of effect that it couldn't avoid my range. She didn't know exactly where it was, but she just went, fucking 60-foot cone. 60-foot cone, I'll just go, bam, somewhere in this area, it ain't getting out of that. Spies. Who knows how long that thing's been around? He turns to the guards, and the corporal is suddenly doing what upper management often does, of like blaming the lower folk, essentially. Of being like, he starts basically ripping into them about like, what kind of shit show are we running here that you allow the enemy to just walk in here with spies, blah, 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 blah. There could be more. The city needs to be swept thoroughly. We should wait for Briar. We don't know how many there was. How big is Moonbeam? It's a 10-foot radius. 10-foot radius or 10-foot diameter? One of the two. It'll be enough that if you all stand together in the corner, she can cast it on all of you at once. And besides, she can hold it and move it around each round if she wants to. So she can do that. She can sort of sweep the room with Moonbeam and just kind of like get the entire thing in case there's anything hiding somewhere. Well, that could have gone worse. Nice shot, Vala. Thank you. It was sort of a scatter shot. Hoped to grab him. Basically a Star Trek Admiral, yes. Moonbeam make invisible creatures visible? No, it's not considered shape changing. It will force an invisible creature back into its regular form if it's also shape changed, but it'll stay invisible. I guess that fiend was iced. Yeah! Would Moonbeam kill the mayor though, because he's just a dude, not an adventurer? That is a very good point. That is a very good point. It is 2d10 damage. If she rolls low, he's going to be fine. If she rolls 10s on both, then the mayor would die. He might be knocked out. I'd say that he's not got like 4 hit points. But he is just a dude, so he's probably got about 10 hit points. And so if she rolled a 10 on both, he would just outright die. We'd use our final level 1 spell slot to check the city again, just in case this was the only one, although that's probably unlikely. You could check the room again, you could check the building again, you could check the entire city. You also have 3 spell slots, not just the 1. You just have 1 level 1 spell and 2 level 2 spell slots. How long does Detect Thoughts last? Vala can probe. I think it's a 10-minute spell. She can now start to probe around each of you if she wants, and she may well be doing that. She probes into Apis's mind and hears all of this. All of these neurons, all of these thoughts. How long does Detect Thoughts last? Can we check the room again? Prefer to check the room again once the druids are here and the doors are closed. Alright. You just think, hi Vala. I'll have you make an insight check real quick. With an 18 plus 2 for a dirty 20. You think, hi Vala, and you get this sort of like almost involuntary smirk from her face. As she's not looking at you, she just kind of smiles, and then her eyes kind of go towards you. And then she moves on to other people, it seems. She looks over to the mayor and she's moved on. Apparently, yes, she was actually probing your mind. Or at least the surface thoughts of your mind. Would pushing deeper with Detect Thoughts not reveal somebody as a fiend? Indeed it would, yes. She's doing surface thoughts at the moment. Vala detects a few bad puns. Yeah. Vala immediately gets a headache from how many neurons are firing at once, yes. You know that most people, when you stab them with a sword, they die right away, right? Yeah. Alright, it's not too long before Briar arrives. She is arriving intact. Intact? That's a weird adjective to use. She is arriving with in tow, I think was what I was going for. With another druid. Which druids do you know in this area, and which druids did you not meet yet? She'll this is interesting. She arrives with a female wood elf druid that you do recognize. You've not met them much, but you do know her as Ruan. Ruan arrives with her. For those who don't remember or weren't here, Ruan was a young and very scared wood elf druid during the Luciferic arc, and she didn't know what to do when Luciferic the Green Dragon threatened her and her family, and so she somewhat involuntarily turned spy for him. She was a turncoat. She turned spy and helped kobolds to get into the city via the underground sewers, and came up through the city well right just outside of this building here in the centre of the town square, the area that's now been cordoned off. And we heard that she was a spy from Luciferic, so we used the sending spell to tell Vala that she was a spy. Vala told the authorities, and she was, the last you heard, she had been apprehended and confessed, and the kobolds that were coming into the city to kidnap people were killed or slain. The well was also blocked off at that time. So it seems, with her being here now in druid outfit and not in chains, that she has at least been forgiven, or maybe she's on probation or something. Maybe she's atoned for her sins. You get the impression that she did what she did because she was terrified and didn't know what else to do. Do you or the other arcanists have any magic items to detect invisible creatures? Or maybe you could make something. We probably need to be sweeping regularly for invisible demons in town. I can't imagine you'll want to be using all your spells every day just on that. No, I'd rather not. I'll have Nim make something. And Nim is an artificer that works for the Arcanists Entente. Very intelligent, brilliant mind who uses items quite a lot. I'll have Nim start working on something that can detect invisibility. It seems that the demons are not only able to shapeshift, she says to the corporal. And then under her breath, make a perception check, see if you can hear it. That is a, what was it? A 2. With a 2 plus your perception, you don't get your proficiency. You don't get your forest bonus, but you are proficient in perception, as you can see on your sheet over there. So that is a +2 +3, so 5. 5 onto 2, 7. You don't hear it. She says something else under her breath after making a pointed comment to the corporal there. Some sort of true sight enchantment would be even more useful. Yeah, but that's a high level spell. True sight's level 6, I think. It would also be useful if there's any way of putting some sort of ward on the war room. And she says, yes, with the infinite money and resources that we're being given, I'm sure that's a smart idea. And she kind of shakes her head and says, I'm sorry, that was unnecessarily sarcastic. We are strained for resources at the moment, Apris. There's only so much we can do. Lantern of Revealing. Yeah, Lantern of Revealing would be a good idea. Alright, so thumbs up, thumbs down for wanting to do one more check on any amount of radius. Maybe you want to check the room you're in to check that everybody here is actually safe before you start moonbeaming people. Maybe you want to do a check on the entire town. What do you want to do? Thumbs up, thumbs down on doing a check at all. Like, you've got 3 spell slots left. It is about 6 PM. Wait to do the check after Briar. Briar can do the moonbeam on everyone, so potentially. Interesting. Lots of yeses, but a few no's as well. So it's not unanimous. We know there will be more. Are there others that can check? There's no other people with your abilities, not that they know of in town. The city, I'm confident, will come back with a yes, but can we let Vala finish checking the occupants of the room? Yeah, Vala is doing what she's doing while you're doing your thing. Don't worry about it. Maybe don't moonbeam the mayor, but probe his head instead. And yes for checking after Briar checks the room. Okay, so it seems like we're in two minds about it. We will check, but we'll wait for Vala to do her thing first, and then maybe Briar to do her thing. I will say as well, perception check? Yeah, perception check. With a 15 plus your 5 perception, dirty 20 again. At this point, now that Briar has entered the room with Ruin in tow, and Ruin sort of caught your eye first, as like, oh, she betrayed the town, and she's still working as a druid. Interesting, good to know. You then eventually, you turn your attention to Vala as she's doing her thing, then you turn back to Briar, and paying attention to her now, you see that she still has her hood up inside. She's got a dark green hood, part of her druidic garb, and she's still got her hood up and she's still got her head pointing towards the ground. She's only 2 feet tall, which even as a dwarg means that she is even smaller than you, and so you can't see her face. She's just kind of looking to the ground, and she's still got that very much a body language of like not wanting to be seen. You okay, Briar?
Yes, thank you, Apis. It's good to see you again.
She doesn't look up when she says that. Powerful fiend might be able to hide their thoughts, I would have thought. Don't know. Maybe. That's why Vala was like, either there's nobody here or I can't hear them because they can hide it. It's not my fault, people. Not my fault. Well, it's not your fault, right? What are you talking about? My eyes are up here, Briar. You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
And she kind of lifts her head up to look at you, but she like scratches her face at the same time and then looks down again. If I was Briar, I'd hate having to blast people with Moonbeam all the time. Yeah, that might be it. Briar, if my counterpart, if my double, did anything wrong, I do apologise. I haven't seen you in 8 months, and you have to try and remember that in that time it wasn't me. And she says,
no, I know, I don't blame you for anything, and they were actually very pleasant. They were just like you, really.
I'm sorry that they missed dinner with you. That's actually what prompted me to know that there was someone taking my place at all. Vala messaged me to say that they were meant to come to dinner and they missed it.
Yeah.
The others are in the room are talking amongst themselves as well, and like Vala is now explaining that she's going to start probing deeper into their minds and try not to push back on that. Pertran is fine with that. The mayor is fine with that. The corporal is not fine with her probing deeper into his minds because, as far as he's concerned, I got military secrets in here. Blah blah blah. So they're all having this discussion in the background while you're sort of in a corner talking to Brian. Maybe she caught feelings for the double. Maybe. So Vala has probed the mayor and the head of the Kvosna Guild. She says, "Sorry to interrupt, Apis, but could you let me into your mind, as it were?" And you're like, "Oh yeah, open book here." You turn towards her. She looks into your eyes. She probes deeper. You can feel her brain at this point pushing itself into your brain. You feel her thoughts trying to connect themselves to your thoughts, like she's digging in. It's a strange feeling, but she learns the deeper level of why you're here and what you've been doing and such. And then eventually she pulls back and says, "Apis is safe. Apis is who they say they are this time. Guards," and the corporal says, "Guards, allow Vala to push into your minds here. You've got nothing to hide." And they do so. She pushes into their minds. Vala has, after the 10-minute duration is up, has surface level checked everybody in the room and has delved deeper into everyone in the room. Everyone except the corporal, who would not allow it. Well, actually, she could. No, I was going to say she could try it and he could fail his save, but then she's deliberately trying against the direct order from the corporal, which is not going to end well for her. Don't think about mushrooms. Don't think about mushrooms. Vala gets a headache from peeking in on this neuron chaos. That corporal needs to be moonbeamed then. Vala actually is the one to suggest, so she goes, I can either delve deeper into your mind, Corporal, or you can subject yourself to a moonbeam you will take my word for it that I am blah blah blah. And the guards say, "So when you first arrived, we had orders specifically from the king that supersede that order." And he says, "Right, yes, of course. Yes, of course. All right, let's get this over with." And he walks back to the top end of the table and says, "Briar, do your thing." And she walks forwards and she sort of briefly looks up to see where he is, and then she does that same sort of mist swirling and pulls down a moonbeam from above, subjects him to it, and the corporal takes 15 points of damage. Please tell me he has 4 HP. Something's up with Briar and that ex-traitor, maybe? Maybe. I don't think fiends can cast Moonbeam. It is directly from the gods. Let's see, make a religion check for me a second, see if you know anything about this spell and Moonbeam in general. Nope, let's try and hit the tray with it, shall we? 15. With a 15 plus your religion check, which would just be a +3, you know that Moonbeam, the goddess of the moon, is the one that would give the powers to cast Moonbeam. The goddess of the moon is Opola, and right now you're actually in Opobris, the month that is dedicated to Opola. She's the god of the moon. She's the god of the of astronomy and astronomy or astrology. There's 2 different gods, and one is one and one is the other. Can't remember. She's god of a lot of things, but yeah, she's the one that's in charge of preventing shapeshifters essentially from getting one over on her. He takes the damage. He seems to wince in the pain of it, but he's a hardy guy who's worked for the military for some time now, so 15 damage isn't going to take him to wounded. The moonbeam is quickly moved to the side off of him, but she knows that there's several people in the room and she may be asked to do it again, so she doesn't drop the spell at this point. She just continues to concentrate on it in case anybody else wishes to step into it to prove themselves. Everybody else in the room has been checked, however, other than Vala, who was the one doing the checking. So Vala is going to voluntarily step into the beam as well. She takes 10 points of damage, winces, and has like a burn mark across her arms as she steps back out again. No longer under suspicion, let's say. Sweep the room. The corporal says as he steps out of the way, and Briar just moves the moonbeam, pans it back and forth across the corners of the room, the tables and everything, everybody getting out of the way of it as it moves. Eventually, you all she dismisses it and is satisfied. Leaves the room with the rest of you, with the rest of the guards and Ruin, and you can go back to your exposition meeting, knowing now that there is nothing in the room with you. Feeling confident that there's nothing in the room with you at the very least. Are there what's it guts in the corner? No, the Ica that was on the ground. It was kind of like it's going to be a cleaning job to get that up properly. But it's mostly just like a black tar rather than guts itself. And when the moonbeam passed over it, some of it like boiled away as well. So it's not as much to clean up, but it's definitely going to need some sort of a cleaning job. Not only a cleaning job, but a consecration as well. When a demon fouls an area, it's generally a nasty piece of work to actually clean it up again. So you are in the meeting again with these non-fiends. You don't know if they're like, because here's the other thing: just because they're not fiends doesn't mean they're not working for the fiends. Just to add extra suspicion here. You found yourself in this meeting with the mayor of the town, the head of the Knights of Kavosna, the head of the Arcanists Entente, and the new corporal of the war effort. What I'm going to just cut to the chase and say, what do you want to exposition about your time since they last saw you 8 months ago, and what do you want to keep to yourself? Do you exposition dump everything that you know, or are you keeping any of it a bit secret for now? Right, I hear you, Xing Xing. Don't mention Drenvale, and don't mention the Dren Tree. Sure, that makes sense. The mind reading should have dealt with a lot of the working with fiends. The only one didn't get that scan. Vague portal learning business, but not the name of the place. Yeah, fair enough. So we give vague details of where we were, not where we were, but like what we were doing while we were there, learning about how to deal with portals and close them and such. Keep it vague for the entire group. Tell Valor more details later. Okay, sure. Don't mention that tree. Everything else is fine. Don't mention Mosh's secret. I will save you the effort, Creative Garden, because during the exposition dump between you and them, the people of the Fondirg as well, they do mention Mosh, and they mention the fact that he's a werewolf, and apparently they are aware of it now, and he is being used. I will say that whoever it is that brings it up, I think it would probably be the corporal that brings it up. He mentions at one point that the hobgoblins are working with several divisions of banners, as the hobgoblins call them, different groups of people with different focuses and purposes. You've already met the Seekers, which were the hobgoblins Grobok and his partner. Their job is to go out and seek down individual spies and such and take them out, especially shapeshifters. They're like a special division that goes after shapeshifters. Then they also have a division that is all werefoxes and werecreatures and were-animals that are immune to certain attacks from demons, and so they're basically like a big tank division. He mentions that, and he says that Mosh is now working for them as well. Tell them that we went to the Feywilds for help. We got that help. We fixed up some portals already and are ready to help with dealing with this demon portal. Fair enough. All right. We're okay on vague on the Feywild and the Drenvale, but we're okay on Horizon Walk stuff and learning about portals and how Horizon Walkers fit into the world. Okay, so you tell them a little bit about all that. You exposition dump everything except the stuff that has been specifically told to you to not. I did not think, chat. It wasn't me. I don't know what you're talking about, Rafe. I'm telling you the truth. It's so suspicious. It brings me so much joy to be such an asshole to you, Wraith. I don't know why. Wraith has information. So for context for people who aren't here, Wraith redeemed channel points that you accrue on this channel. She redeemed enough channel points to get a play with me. She had a one-on-one a private game with me and some of my friends, where she played in this world. And she was tasked with going after the fake Apis after he disappeared about 2 weeks ago in this game. So she and her character is an NPC in this world now, and because of all of that, she knows things that she's not allowed to talk to you guys about because it would be metagaming. He. I find that very funny. She's gonna hit me with her car. Yes. So the guy tells you, you tell him everything except the stuff that you were explicitly told not to talk about, like the existence of Drenvale and the Dren Tree and the Sentinels and all that stuff. But you do tell him, blah, 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 I've been dealing with people in the Feywild. It was the Merry Gentleman that sent the Changeling in my place. He said that he did it so that people wouldn't get suspicious with my absence. You talk about this and this and this. Vala, during the talking of the fake Apis saga of Fondirg, she does unfortunately tell you that she did give fake Apis the commission job of the dragon, the green dragon scale braces. So fake Apis, the changeling, whoever or whatever or wherever they are, has your braces. Which makes sense from her perspective because she was dealing with you and had no reason to believe that he wasn't you. Did they end up with message or sending? You ask her, did you put message on them, by the way? And she says, I did, yes. And she says, and you say, I know I asked for message, but I meant sending. And she says, oh, like the more powerful. No, I put the powerful version of message. Do you call it sending? Yes, sending. Don't know why she's Welsh now. Yes, I put sending on them. The one that can speak up to so the one that I was using against you, with you in while you were trapped with Lucifreak. You say, yes, that one. That's what I wanted. Well, back to the Merry Gentleman then. Did they pay for them? Yeah, yes. They had the money to pay for them. Yes. Do you guys remember? Do you remember how much you had left to pay on that? How much was your bill? You paid some up front and you had to pay the rest when you picked up the braces. Do you remember how much it was? Because I've probably got it in my notes somewhere, or I could go back and watch, but I can't remember right now. Oh, dang it, and they're Fey, so their interpretation of ownership is different from ours, so rip to those braces. Maybe. Main quest change. You guys handle the demons, we're going after our braces. Yeah. Merry Gentleman indirectly paid for our stuff? Maybe. We paid something like 14 and we had like 20 left. It's in the recaps. Cool. I'll check it in the recaps before it becomes important. It was totally 1 copper. Alright. So, that's your exposition dump to them. Everything that you have known that catches them up to date on where you've been and what's been going on for you. What do you want to know from them in return? What information do you want from these 4 NPCs that may know? They don't know everything, obviously, but they know quite a lot of what's going on, and they're happy to fill you in, essentially. Napis wouldn't know about our buried stash, right? Right? We'll pop over to Redacted and do Redacted, and it will be redacted. Yeah. You want to know about Shadridge, you want to know about Fondirg, you want to know about the war, you want to know about what's happened, goddammit! Alright, so we go into like a montage scene, essentially, like where one of them starts to talk and then their voice starts to get faded down and like the camera sort of crossfades with another corner of the scene and there's explaining things and then the dialogue is fading between and the music starts up over the top of it as you just see them and you see like a war map gets brought in and they start pointing things out on the war map, and over the course of that exposition scene you learn the following things. Fondirg's population has increased despite its resident population decreasing, because all of the residents fled, well, not all of them, but a huge deal of the residents fled the city to go south to the towns down south of here. You learn that despite the residents going down, the number of army and military men that have come in from the capital, from the king specifically, has increased. You learn that Corporal Gellaby is actually disappointed to be here, to say the least. In fact, I've actually got a thing that he can read out. Where is it? He says the following. Here's the thing. The bastard demons have chosen a time to attack when we're still distracted with the real war against the Scourge in the east. I've had to fall back to High Point Castle and lose all of the progress we made at pushing back those tusked bastards in the last several years, just so I can be pulled out west to start a whole new war against foul fiends from the fathoms of the hells. And then Vala corrects him. Abyss, actually, not the Hells. Oh, bloody details. So you learn that he is disappointed to be fighting demons out east when he was, in fact, fighting the orcs out west. And so they've had to kind of give up on the war with the orcs for now, let the orcs gain some ground, pull back to like a skeleton army essentially over in the west so that they can force most of their forces over here. So many of the army have come from the city, from the capital, with the king, but a lot of it has also already been on Corintiel fighting the Orc War. That's pretty much all you know about Fondirg. The amenities are still happening here. There's still many people just like living and working here because they've got nowhere else to go and they don't want to up and leave their businesses and stuff. And so it is still a working town. Any amenities you need can be found here. You'll notice you get told that a few of the guilds here in town have got extra members now. So there's a couple more knights have joined the Knights Guild, a couple more PEA members, and a couple more Arcanists Entente. You learn from the mayor, Trophy Gardens, that Tammy, who was the head of the Artisanal Alliance, she was involved in a very traumatizing way with Luciferique as well during that arc of the campaign. She has since retired from the Arcanists Entente, from the Artisanal Alliance. And somebody else has taken up to take her place. The walls have been enforced. The weaponsmiths and blacksmiths are working overtime. There's actually a couple of the Mwinglofau Drow blacksmiths that have moved here to Fondirg and are now working in the blacksmitheries here because they are exceptional blacksmiths, and Mwinglofau and the four sister villages are way too dangerous for them to work there anymore. What else? Then you move forwards up to the north, and you learn that the path between here and Shadridge is much more well established now because there's trundling supplies back and forth every day. You learn that the Deadwoods is growing and it's an increasing problem, but they've currently just kind of cordoned off the path through it, and they just have a couple of guards that patrol back and forth through the Deadwoods to fight back the termites. They're just kind of treating the symptom, not the cause at this point, because that's all they've got the resources for. And then they get to Shadridge and they start talking about Shadridge, and that's where we're going to leave it today. No, I'm not. They start telling you about Shadridge. They tell you that Shadridge is basically still standing as a bastion of the humans, but it's under threat a lot more than Fondirg is. They get a lot more. They get a lot more dangers coming their way. They have to be... They almost hit the screen. they get a lot more dangers coming their way. They have to be a lot more onto it with patrols around the region. They've started to erect a wall. They've started to erect a wall, but it is basically a small palisade wall, essentially really easy for something small, especially a quasit, to either sneak in between or fly over. And so they've got to be very militant on patrolling it. There are a lot of temporary buildings that have been set up in Shadridge. Much like Fondirg, a lot of the residents of Shadridge have moved back to Fondirg or moved away from Shadridge because it's just too dangerous. And although they kind of signed up for danger when they decided to go and live in a frontier land, a lot of them are like, "No, this isn't worth it. I'm going to move back in with family," sort of thing. The people of Fondirg are doing their best to basically maintain the war effort. They are, for those that are performing a vital service, they are being supplemented by the crown, and they are sort of being given financial incentives to stay in Shadridge. But they are all under the occupancy of the war, which means that everything they do is property of the king, essentially. You start asking about your friends, Edith, Franklin, and Jackson. Jackson is still the mayor of the town, but in a similar situation to this, there is an occupying general in the town. Let me just double check that he's a general. I think he's not a general, actually. I've got a note that's miscellaneous war notes. Ranks. Because, good God, military ranks are confusing. I tried looking it up, and it's like, private is the starting rank. Everybody agrees on that. And general is generally the highest rank, and everybody seems to agree on that. But everything else seems to be just like fucking doesn't. It depends if you're talking to the army or the navy or the fucking this or that, the air force. If you're talking to this and that and the other, there's corporal, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, major, colonel, and then there's all like second lieutenant, and there's second lieutenant first classes, and there's this and that and the fucking other. Jesus Christ. So there's a private, I think it's private, corporal, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, whatever it is. But there is somebody that is in charge of Shadridge in the same way that this guy is in charge of this town. All of the different branches have different rank systems, yeah, and it's very confusing. So I just had to come up with my own and say this is how it is. First lieutenant, twice removed, yeah. Depends on the country as well, usually, yeah, exactly. So yeah, very confusing. So I've just come up with my own and said this is how it is, okay? So Corporal Gellaby is actually not that high ranking in terms of the military division. He's just higher ranking than these guys, than the city town essentially. Alrighty. Anyway, what else do you learn about? Oh, so Jackson is in charge of like mayoral duties and keeping the town running, but the person, who is he? Sergeant Jim Mason. So Sergeant Jim Mason is in charge of the war effort in town. You ask about Franklin. He still works there. He's still providing the military with daily bread. And you ask about Edith. Does Corporal Gellaby know about what happened to Edith? Let me see. With a 6, he does not. Does anybody else in the room know about what happened to Edith? With a 2, they do not. You ask about Edith, he doesn't know who Edith is. You say she run the apothecary, and he says, I don't know. There's an apothecary there still. My brother has been 3 different kinds of sergeant. Jesus Christ. Hopefully most of the elves got out of the sister villages if the warfront is pushing the edges of Shadridge. Yes. That then brings you on to the topic of the sister villages. The sister villages, they say, are basically what is the front line of the war. They are constantly switching between ownership from the demons and the humans. The humans sometimes push them back and gain access to the villages again. Sometimes the demons will come through and slaughter the humans that are there and push the humans back again. Thankfully for the humans, demons, by their nature, are chaotic. They do not like law and order. They do not follow ranking systems all that much. They don't really necessarily have any kind of organization to their war efforts. And so when they do gain ground, they're just as easily to go, oh look, what's over here? And then just like go back and look for other things to slaughter and then just abandon the village that they just took, which makes it easier for the humans to then retake the village. But they are not well fortified. The exception to that is the asshole village, the village of racists, the village of xenophobic elves that hate all outsiders, whose name I'm now blanking on. Munglofau, Helwarin, Dolbin, Ilawad, and begins with an A. Whatever it is. Arachel, thank you. Arachel is the exception to this. Arachel is a much more fortified village. It is up in the trees, and so they can defend themselves against all things from the ground. All they need to worry about is the things that can fly, and they're well militant. They're also diviners and soothsayers and future seers and such, and so they can tell when an attack is coming, and they have defended themselves. So Arachel has become the home to many of the elves that abandoned the 4 sister villages, and that's pretty much all that the corporal knows. The village of elves who knew that they'd have a fight on their hands and were preparing for it. Exactly. They had the foresight to be making and stockpiling weapons even before you went away to the Feywild. So, what else do you want to know? Is there anything else that I haven't told you that the corporal might know about in this sort of exposition dump scene? Ask about the gravedigger. Interesting. Let's see if he knows anything about the gravedigger. Oh, he does. You mention, I had a friend and acquaintance, an old man who could see undead things and would bury things. He asked me to call him the gravedigger. And the corporal says, yeah, bloody nuisance. He said, bloody nuisance? Yeah, refuses to pay attention to anything that the war is doing and just acts as his own. He's going to get himself killed. I'm surprised he hasn't already. He's still just wandering the woods. I mean, it says it's his duty to bury the dead. Oh, wow. And he's still alive. Seemed like it last I heard.
Off topic, but can we stay at that cool book cafe again? Maybe if it's still here in town, you can certainly try. Tell them that we need to close that portal, and do they have any ideas? Vala, let's see, what would Vala know? Vala says we've been trying to ascertain the nature of where their portal is, and when we find it, I'm sure it will be well guarded. Even if it's not guarded per se, if it is spewing forth demons on the regular, then we would definitely have a fight on our hands getting closer. We can offer you some support in getting closer to it, but ultimately I think the smarter move would be to move in there with a very small team of specialists. It's very handy that you're home. We were hoping that you would lead the team before you disappeared. As for closing the portal, basically anything that prevents portal parameters and blah blah blah. She explains things you already know, and she says, so something such as holy items, holy water, perhaps. We have a very small stockpile of holy water, and more is coming in from the capital whenever the clerics can afford to send us more. Right. Well, I can help out with that first thing. I know where that portal is. You do? Aye. It's on the Lone Mountain in the centre of the Great Expanse. I've detected portals before, and I know that's where my visions have taken me. Right. Well, then that's one thing down, I suppose. You want to ask what happened to Briar, but I also don't think it would be tactful to pry, since she's clearly trying to hide whatever happened to her. It's up to you, Sparrow. You can choose whether or not to say it. Yeah, we need holy water, and we need as much of it as we can. If I can spray the area around the portal with holy water, it should help to close the portal. But I do need help getting close. We saw that portal with our plane-related abilities. There was some presence near it, some evil presence. Not surprising given what's coming out of it. I want to ask Vala what happened to Briar, but privately, because she's not stuffed shirt corporal business. Yeah. They were an old man in a profession where men usually die young. Team Savage Gravedigger. Fuck yeah. Exactly. We can talk to Briar about it privately later, yes. Briar is a friend of yours, and I'm sure she would tell you whether she wants to talk about it or not if you want to ask her. Perhaps we can share some honeycakes with her later and see if she wants to share with us rather than delving into it. Yeah, probably. A whole city or town was demonified. Yes, well, that happened multiple times throughout the Great Expanse. Whenever they've found one of the elven villages, they usually take it by force. The elves fight back, of course, but the demons have numbers. They don't have much in the way of tactics, but they certainly have the numbers. Is there anywhere we can stay? There's many areas in the town that have been put up for military use. If you take one of the guards will give you one of the chits. Take an accommodation chit, and it'll give you a free accommodation at any of the participating retailers, any of the occupied buildings. Do you have any information about Sally, the necromancer that escaped from Shadridge? Who is it that would say this? I think it's Corporal. They reported to Corporal Gellaby, didn't they? Yeah. Corporal Gellaby says, yes, that bloody necromancer witch. She's still not been found. We have reason to believe she's working with the demons. But her hideout was discovered about 2 weeks ago. We sent a crack team of specialists in to find you, in fact. When we thought it was you that was missing, we sent a crack team of specialists in to find you, and they found her hideout in the woods. That was there was some sort of a trap on it, and many of them got injured. It had some sort of moonbeam-esque ability to it that could force a shapeshifter back into its regular form. And so the Grobok, the hobgoblin, he checks his notes. The hobgoblin I said was a shapeshifter. That was when it was revealed he was a shapeshifter. He was hit by this moonbeam trap, and had to run. I don't remember the details. I'd have to look up the notes, but they weren't able to find Sally. Just destroy her home. Who'd be the person to ask about signing off on being allowed to heal people? I have the ability and I know it would be helpful to the war, but I don't want to be running afoul of the lore of these things.
You have the healing necromancy.
You say, yes, it comes from natural gifts from the land. I can manipulate land, the natural magics to stitch up people's wounds.
Very useful indeed. I'll start that process for you.
Thank you. Sounds like Sally wasn't working with the demons then. Maybe not. But he said they have reason to believe that she is, even though her moonbeam trap attacked one of them. Yay, we're going to be legal healers. The context there, if you have missed it before, is that in my games necromancy is illegal and healing magic is all part of necromancy as well, because it's the manipulation of life essence and the barriers between life and death, and you are bringing somebody back from death with healing magic, so it's just the other side of the coin to bring them back after death. And so casting any sort of necromantic healing magic is illegal unless you have a license for it, essentially. And what you're asking for is, can we get licensed? Can we become a legal healer so that we don't attract attention when we do something? Is there anything else you want from this interaction with these guys, or are you heading off to do some downtime and sleep? Because it's getting late into the evening now. It's probably like 8 or 9 p.m. You haven't eaten anything. You need dinner, and you need to find some place to sleep. Let's book at chat with them tomorrow. Is the mushroom regeneration necromancy? No, that's not really one of the schools of magic per se, because it's not a spell that's being cast. It's just like a natural ability. We know where to go. We have an idea of how to close it. So, who's going to be going, and when are we doing this?
I would say as soon as possible, and I will allow you to choose your own crack team.
Basically, I'm going to allow you to a certain degree, choose who you want to go with you. Because I'm not going to send like an army of like 12 NPCs that I have to continue to run with you. It's basically going to be you and Mel and maybe one or two others. Whoever you think will be most useful. Don't forget that you haven't been to Shadridge yet, and there may be some NPCs there that you may also recruit to your little team. Find Briar and have dinner with her maybe, yep. Time has passed, so Mike needed healing. That's a very good point, thank you for the reminder. You have been exposition dump talking to this guy for some time, so about 2 hours, yeah. Let's say you're back up to full. Ask for a chit for a free magic bow and rapier. They do not have those sorts of resources. Just you and Joey, yeah. Let's go, Joey. Joey is a Wolverine field knight now, which means that he is of the level that could go out and deal with things in person. If you wanted to pitch that Joey should come with you, it's definitely a possibility. Charlie is also a high-ranking member of the PEA. Ask for dinner with Vala, stay at the tattered page if extant, but pay for it because we can. Fair enough, we will do that. So ask for dinner with Vala after this to be like, hey, let's go catch up privately. Joey, Charlie, and Tisharu. Not sure if Tisharu's going to still be around. You'd have to go and seek him out. He wasn't in Fondirg.
Team assembly montage time. You son of a bitch, I'm in.
Lots of that stuff. Just Briar and Mosh, maybe? Mosh would be good. Mosh, you hear, is working for the Hobgoblins in their army, so you'd have to go and track him down and convince him to come with you if you wanted that. I think Briar is traumatized, so maybe not a good idea. You don't know what her situation is at the moment. Well, I mean, you do, Wraith. You know what her situation is, but you're not allowed to talk about what her situation is. But, like, sometime, at some point, maybe these guys will also learn what Briar's situation is. If only somebody had, like, specifically asked for us to bend down and look at her face. But I don't think anybody did. I certainly missed it in the chat if they did. The Hallow spell might be more useful than Holy Water if we try and find a cleric. Problem is, as Joey indicated as you were heading into the city when you asked for a zone of truth, he said clerics are a little light on the ground at the moment. They're much more inclined to have fighters and druids and that sort of people than clerics. Apparently holy people that are ordained by the gods, they're a little difficult to come by. Briar is needed here in Fondirg with all of the moonbeaming, yep. I'd like to sit Mosh, Vala, Briar and Joey, but then it's getting too large of a party. Yeah, I'm not having 4 NPCs coming with you. In a push, I might be persuaded to allow you to have 3 NPCs with you, but I ain't running an entire party of NPCs. Not for, like, fights and stuff. It's going to be you and Mel, because Mel's just an extension of you, and at least 1, maybe 2,
maybe 3. If I feel like they're a simple class. Like, I would allow 3 if they're all pretty simple classes so that they don't bog down like combat with me just rolling for myself a million times. Did Wraith hurt Briar? What? Did she? I never said that. Mosh and Benadryl are best friends now? Yeah, that's a question, isn't it? What's happening with Benadryl? Belladel is his name, everybody. Belladel. What's happening with Belladel, who had the Weirfox curse the last you heard? That was 8.5 months ago. I wonder what happened. Right, well, it seems we're done here for now. I should seek a meal and a bed. Vala, I'd love to have dinner with you and catch up properly if you'd like. She says, I'm busy, but I think I can make time. Wrong voice. She says, yes, I think I can make time for you. I'm a little busy, but it would be smart for us to catch up. And you leave the room. The corporal calls his advisors back in to continue what he was doing several hours ago when you arrived, before all of the talking and exposition and stuff. And he gets back to work. Everybody goes their separate ways, and you and Vala start to head off to try and find a place to eat. From memory, there is a place that you've been before on a date here in town. What was that called? It was called Peak Dining, I think. Fondirg. Places that still exist in Fondirg. Where is that? There it is. Places still in Fondirg. We have Peak Dining. Yep, I was right. It's called Peak Dining. It's a wild game restaurant that specialises in mountain hunting, i.e. mountain goat, mountain streamfish, etc. So, because we've been there before, prevents me having to make another dining establishment. Let's just say for expediency's sake, you head there. His unofficial nickname is Benadryl, and that's all we've ever remembered him by. Fuck you all. The local game, yes. Go for some goat, yeah. Oh, Sam, hi. Funny seeing you here. This is Vala. So you head with Vala to Peak Dining. You sit down at a table and order some mountain goat, some meat, but some vegetables, some root vegetables as well. You feel like with maybe it's your mushroom side of yourself, but you feel like some earthy kind of textures, some earthy foods. So you get a plate full of like root vegetables, winter vegetables, and a big slab of goat meat, and you start to talk to Vala. What is it you want to catch up with Vala about specifically, now that you're away from the prying ears of the rest of the corporal and all the rest of them? Mushroomness? You mention your mushroomness. You say, hey Vala, so this is the situation. Coming back from the Feywild, I lost my mind. She goes, yeah, that's normal. And you say, yeah, but in order to try and get my mind back, my memories and all that, I went to some myconids, blah, 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 exposition dump, this is what happened, and now I feel like I'm turning into a mushroom. And she goes, oh, fascinating. That's fascinating. You don't look like a mushroom. You're not resembling. And she kind of reaches over and just like manipulates your head, like her academic curiosity at this, hearing this is kind of overpowering her usual politeness and decorum at how to handle yourself in a situation. Don't just reach out and grab somebody without their consent. She reaches out and sort of like manipulates and goes like, oh, you don't look like a mushroom, and says, oh, sorry, this is really interesting, though. You tell her about the pros and cons of it, like, hey, I'm healing myself real quick, but at the same time, like, you pick up one of your steak knives and you're like, don't be freaked out, but you cut yourself for a point of damage, and kind of just like hold the cloth over it, and then within 10 minutes of discussing the mushroom stuff, she's literally watching, like, she keeps looking down at your arm as you're talking and seeing it stitching itself back up again. You talk about that, you talk about anything else, blah blah blah. And she says, this is interesting. I can, there's definite benefits there. Obviously, if you're traveling during the day, this is going to be a problem in future, but this is something you want rid of? Question. I'm going to put it to a poll in the chat. Is this something that you want rid of? The mushroomy nature. I want rid. I want to keep it. Those are your two options. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to decide, and I'm going to explain to you what it is that they do, in case you've forgotten. There are basically 4 features that came with being part mushroom now. Control, find, mushroom.
Let me read them as they are exactly written. You have the following 4 features or flaws, depending on your perspective of them. Number 1, the flaw that is called sun sickness. If in direct sunlight for more than 10 minutes out of any 15-minute period, Apis has the poisoned condition until they are in dim light again for at least 15 minutes straight. So the poisoned condition basically gives you disadvantage on everything. I've not started a poll yet. I'm explaining what it is that these things are before you can choose whether or not it's a thing that you actually want. Get off me, bug. Thank you. A little spider just came down from the ceiling. So sun sickness is almost definitely a flaw, a drawback. I don't see any benefit to that. Basically, you can't go out into the sun for very long before you feel the poisoned condition. The second one is, I think, also a flaw. There's not really anything that good can come from it. It's called ungrounded. If Apis is not in direct contact with dirt or earth for more than an hour, Apis starts to feel an unsettling and distracting anxiety. You have disadvantage on ability checks, attack rolls, and saving throws until you become in contact with a lot of dirt or earth again for at least a minute. So if you get pulled out of the ground probably in the time that you were in the meeting, with it only being like worked tiled floors, you probably started to feel like, oh man, I'm starting to feel a bit antsy here, and you started to get anxious about the fact that you weren't connected to the ground. So by the end of the meeting, you were really looking to get out of there and touch some dirt again. Then as you walked through the town with Vala, you would have walked past some gardens and stuff, touched some dirt, you feel fine again. Then you have the 2 other features, which are actually kind of beneficial. You have a feature called Spore Rapport. Apis can communicate through feelings, emotions, and telepathy with all plants and fungus within 30 feet of them, gathering simple concepts and a general vibe. So it's not telepathy, it's not full telepathy of like you can talk and communicate in full sentences and words and get information from them. It's not the speak with plants spell. But you do manage to just like tap into that for free, essentially, without casting anything. Just tap into it and just feel these plants are feeling weird for whatever reason. And the final one, the most important one, is regeneration. Apis regenerates 1 HP per 10 minutes, which is super useful, but might not be worth all of the drawbacks and such. So now I'm starting the poll. You've got 2 minutes to decide now that you know what the features are. How is Apis feeling about this at the moment? Are you feeling like, yes, you can, you'd rather get rid of this thing, or are you feeling, no, I'd rather keep this thing? Because as she's talking to you, as Vala is talking to you, the head of the Arcanists Entente, she's a very smart, very bright individual. She knows a lot about blood magic in particular. You've given her blood before as a way of like studying dragon blood and things. If you want rid, but not right now, just I want to be able to get rid of it. Yeah, because you can always negotiate the exact terms of it. But like if you want to know like how do I get rid of this? Is this something you can get rid of? I do eventually want rid of this. Then say yeah, I want rid of it. The healing is slow, and we haven't used the talking all that much. It doesn't counterbalance the deficits, in your opinion. Fair enough. Will we retain our ability to use the Myconid tunnel system? To be seen. You don't know. I asked if our hood would help working through the Deadwoods to Fondirg last session. Not particularly. Like it would to a certain degree, but not much. Because there's more to the sunlight than just what's touching your skin. You put a mushroom down in a cool, dark cave underground, it's going to grow and thrive. If you put a mushroom out in the sun, it's going to wilt and die. If you put a mushroom out in the sun, but you put a tiny little piece of shade over it, it's still not going to grow and thrive, is it? It's going to still wilt and die, just less quickly than if it's in direct sunlight. Could we ask about fixing the deficits, keeping the benefits? Might be hard, but could be worthwhile. That would be incredibly difficult. With 69 nice% of the vote, Apis decides, yes, I do want rid of this thing. Maybe not right now, but you do want rid of it. So she says, like, is this something you wish to keep? Regenerative healing like that is incredibly powerful. It's actually a spell that I'm working on myself, and it's something that hasn't been... It's not exactly easy to do. So to have it naturally imbued upon you by Myconids... I keep making a Welsh for some reason. You say, I find that the drawbacks kind of outweigh the benefits, and I would rather know how to get rid of this if possible. She says, well, of course, there's always Greater Restoration. There is a spell known as Greater Restoration among those who can cast it. It's a very costly spell because it requires diamond dust in order to cast. Around 100 gold pieces of diamond dust, no less, so it's incredibly costly. But once cast, it can realign your body, soul, mind, and whole, and the four things can be in alignment once more. That's its entire purpose as a spell. That would certainly do it, I can guarantee, because the whole point of your being who you are, your soul is not in line with your body anymore. There is also potential for a simple curse removal. If this is a curse, I could investigate, and there's a chance I could remove a curse, but it would require some sort of ritual of self-identity, probably. You would probably have to re-identify who you are as a person as part of the ritual, and then undergo the remove curse as part of that. It's the least pleasant option, but death is also a way of removing any sort of curse like this. If you are, as you know, and she kind of points down at herself, resurrection can bring you a new body, and with a new body can come a new body, soul, mind, and whole balance. So death and resurrection, greater restoration, some sort of remove curse ritual, those are probably your easiest options. Have you tried talking to the Myconids? Maybe they can remove it. You say, yes, they said they couldn't. Maybe she is Welsh in her new body. Yeah, maybe her new vocal cords come out Welsh. Why not? Perhaps we could help you with the spell, and then you could provide us with that once we have this removed. Help you with the spell, and then you could provide us with that. Oh, help you with the regeneration spell. Yeah. Basically, she's saying that she's trying to work on the spell Regenerate, which is a 7th level spell, and it's not a wizard spell, so it's going to be a very difficult job for her to try and work on it, but she's studying it because she's fascinated with blood magic. You could always die. You could also die in this next task, which will fix it, yes. Yes, I was told that one way was to die and to come back, hopefully. Might be a touchy subject. She says, no, I'm it doesn't bother me. I've made my She's not fucking Welsh. Yes, it doesn't bother me at all, Apis. I've made my peace with the fact that I temporarily died, and I was given a new lease on life. I have learned to stop feeling like I owe everybody my existence here, and that they chose to give me this as a gift, and one does not feel like one is indebted to a friend when they give you a birthday gift. And I'm trying to teach myself that this is fine. This is something that I don't owe anybody just because I'm back again. Obviously, it still is difficult for me to come to terms with the fact that I was chosen over others. It does put a lot of pressure on me to succeed in areas that those others would necessarily have been better at. But I think I'll get there in time. We do have 161 platinum pieces in the riverbank, right, Rob? Maybe, Schmick. Maybe you need to go to the riverbank and check. Speaking of which, how are you feeling with all that new body and all? What about your friend from the woods? Her eyes go a little wide and says, right, yes, you know about that. In Welsh for some reason. She says, right, yes, you know about that. My friend from the woods is coping, but I'd rather not talk about him. This new body is fine. I'm getting used to it. I feel like I'm no longer knocking my hands into things anymore, from being a little more distant than my previous body. I feel fine. Does anyone in the town have the ability to cast the restoration spell? Does anyone know anyone in the town have the ability to cast the Greater Restoration spell? Let me see. What is Greater Restoration? Is it? I know it's a cleric spell, probably a paladin spell. Greater Restoration. Maybe a druid spell? If it's a druid spell, then there should be somebody in town who can do it. Let's have a look. Greater Restoration is a bard, cleric, druid, artificer,
Peace Domain, and the Celestial Warlock. So yes, it's a druid spell, which means that anybody who can cast 5th level spells or higher as druids, which is 9th level druids. So let me look at the druids that are in town. NPC's still in Fondirg. Here we go. PEA. We have Polython. Polython is still the head of the PEA here, and she's a high enough level to do it. Charlie. Since you left him, Charlie has leveled up to level 9, and so Charlie is also able to cast Greater Restoration if he prepares it in the morning. Briar is not yet high enough level to cast level 5 spells. So just Charlie and Polython. Yes. So you ask, is there anyone in town that can cast that Greater Restoration that you mentioned? I can cover the financial cost. She says, I do happen to know that Polython is still head of the Pencampura Nangleshed, and I believe that maybe a couple of the other druids could do so. She should be able to be powerful enough to do so, and the problem is not necessarily the cost, it's the resources. Diamond dust is obviously not easy to come by. There are rock gnomes just up the mountain of here, and if you remember, Peak Dining is so called because it's actually up the mountainside on which Fondirg is built. It's a little bit further up the mountain with a view of the city. And she says, she kind of just gestures even further up the mountain. She says, there's a rock gnome village just up here, a very small village, and they're miners as well. I think they do most of their trading with the diamonds and the things that we get. Most of the resources that they trade to us go straight to the army, and the army uses them for healing and fixing their soldiers, obviously. If you were to trade with the gnomes of the gnomish village, perhaps you could get enough diamond dust. Mates rates? Well, if it makes you feel better, I voted to bring you back because of your messages while I was captured by Lucifreak. The messages the messages from you helped me keep my hopes up in there when there wasn't much hope to be found. It was truly invaluable. She doesn't really know what to say. She just kind of puts her head down, looks at her food. Can you send a message to the braces or get a location to scry on them? You can do that, right, as long as you know the item well. Very clever. Scry. What level is scry? Scry. She could send a message. She's done that, obviously. She could send a message to the person wearing the braces. Scry is a level 5 spell, so she is high enough level to do so. Where are you? Arcanist's Valor. You are you're not actually high enough level to do it because you're a multi-class into Artificer. Yeah, she's a multi-class, so she's not actually a high enough level wizard to cast a 5th level spell yet, because she's got multi-class. But Godfrey, who is a divination wizard, also not. He's got 4th level spells, not 5th. So neither of Godfrey or her has the Scry spell. But when Godfrey levels up next, maybe. So you ask this, you say, like, can you scry on the item? And she says, I am afraid that sort of divination magic is much more Godfrey's territory, and I'm not sure that he's able to scry on the creatures yet, but I could certainly send a message to them, yes. What's your opinion of the colonel, the corporal, whatever he is? He's not fucking Welsh, because he's I'll make an insight check, see what you pick up just from that, just from those non-verbals. With a 16 plus 2, you get an 18 wisdom, 18 insight. You can tell that she finds him exasperating and a necessary nuisance, essentially. And she says, he is as you'd expect a military man to be, I suppose. I don't think he has anything to be concerned about. He certainly has Fondirg's best interests at heart, but he does not make it a secret at all that he resents being here. I think the sooner the nuisance of this war is dealt with, the sooner he can leave. I think that while he is here and while he is in command of this army, it's
competent. We feel safe here under his command. But I think he's a necessary nuisance himself. I would also say that I would not be surprised if, when we start to win this war, when we start to push back this army, we very rapidly see a withdrawing of him and his men. He seems like the type to not stay until the job is done, but stay until it is done enough to get back to where he truly actually wants to be. I get the impression from him that he's rather vengeful against the orcs. The war against the orcs has personal meaning to him, it seems, whereas the war against the demons, not so much. Which NPC uses our dice box to find us? Someone did it right? Yeah, I believe. That's a very good question. Somebody did that at some point. Was it Vala? I think it was Vala that did that, didn't she? It was Vala. Yeah, there you go then. There's a chance locate object could find the braces. Range isn't infinite, but it's still a chance if they never actually left. That's a good point. Do you have locate object by any chance? I know that you used the spell to find my box before, and she says, I have that spell, yes. So is there any chance you could use that on the braces? She goes, what now? It's unlikely that the changeling's still in town. Not necessarily now, but also not necessarily not now if you've got the spells. Let's make a persuasion check for you to see if she's willing to cast another spell slot for you today. That is a 13 plus your persuasion of 1. That's a 14. I think, given that she's having a lovely meal and is enjoying your company and catching up with you about stuff again, she says, "Fair enough. I will see if I can find those braces for you." She puts her knife and fork down and just kind of closes her eyes and thinks about the braces as they are. And then you can see her open her eyes, pick up her fork again, and start to trace in the mashed potatoes that she's eating, just like a little rune with the edge of the fork. And then her eyes sort of roll back in her head, kind of go like a light colour, and then her eyes come back to her normal sense again. Well, they're not here, that's for sure. Which means that they're not within 1,000 feet. That is the range of locate object. I'm all for giving her vials of the algae and our blood. Thank you for that, all the same. I appreciate it, and at least it tells me they're not here. I don't need to waste my time searching around the town for them. Were they good? And she says, "Oh, very. I was very happy with my work." Damn it! They really good, very well enchanted. Yes. Damn it! They looked amazing too. Do you have to? That's not. I mean, I'm just saying. They looked really. The Tanner did a great job of the scales. They looked very intimidating, I would say. Right, fine. I'll get them back. I'll get my braces. All right. I mean, they are paid for. Ask if she needs cyclopede bits. Do you need any other bits from creatures and stuff? By the way, I've got some leftover parts of things that I've killed and stuff. She's like, maybe not here at dinner. If you have things for me, bring them to my classroom tomorrow. Can we roll the Merry Gentleman dice and ask if our braces are in the Feywild or Shadridge or other pole option? You could, yes, you could do. We will get them back. Could you message them, please, maybe tomorrow or something? Damn it, please. I'm going to roll another persuasion check. This is a slightly higher level spell now. You're asking her to cast a 3rd level spell, which is getting into the territory of, she doesn't necessarily want to be using up her spell slots, even late into the evening. You never know what happens if something attacks in the middle of the night and stuff. And you've just asked her to do one favour for you, now you're asking for another, so the DC's going up, but we'll see. That is a 15 plus 1. She says, "What? You're getting the bill, right?" And she means the food. You're getting the bill. And you're like, I'll get the dinner's on me. Dinner's on me. Thank you so much. What is it you want to ask her? She says, right. What I can say a sentence or two. You know how this works. What am I asking the changeling, if they're even still alive? It will be mine. Oh yes, it will be mine. What do we want Vala to ask on our behalf to the braces of message? Gib, gib, gib. Just gib, gib, gib. Bring me my braces, you fey asshole. Well, my instinct is to say, bring me my braces, you fucking fey asshole. But I don't think that's going to work. So if you could ask them for a location that I could meet them. Something like, hey, fake Apis, real Apis is back and they want their braces back, so meet them in the blah 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 and you won't be in trouble. Because I won't kill them if they bring me my braces. If they bring me my braces. Something like, meet me on the road outside of Fondirg tomorrow morning. Something like that. Let's fix this idea. Can you hear the other person's voice? Can you hear the other person's voice back? Will you be able to tell if it's the same changeling or someone else? I can hear their voice return to me, yes. It's just like hearing them, but from a memory of their voice, essentially. So I should be able to hear them if they're still presenting as you or not. Important though, don't ask them to return, because Fae and asking them things and stuff, just tell them to return to Fondirg. Maybe say, hey, we know who sent you here. You took care of my friend, and I appreciate that, so let's meet. Maybe we have something that we could swap them for the braces. You got your dice. You got your panpipes. We could give them a story from the Feywild. Also, don't thank them. She's like, this is proving a lot of rules here, Apis, as she's like eating another mouthful of mashed potatoes. We've got a displacer cloak. We could give them that. Yes, Apis definitely says that. Yes, 100%. We're going to give them the displacer cloak. I'm locking it in. Offer them a displacer cloak, and we'll get the braces in return. Yep, seems like chat is 100% in agreement there. Chat is 100% agreeing. It seems like there's nobody in the chat that is disagreeing with that. Everybody seems... Wow. Unanimous decision. Unanimous decision to get rid of this displacer cloak. Wow, what a cool idea. Everybody's 100% in agreement there. So Vala says, sends a message and says, they'll give you a displacer cloak. And he says, yes, yes, yes. And then he appears next to you, teleports in, takes the displacer cloak, gives you the braces and leaves. Oh, whoops, did I accidentally turn the chat box off? Whoops. Race, get your car ready, we need to hit someone. What is it with Robin displacer cloaks? I just forget to use it every fucking time, and then I'm like, ooh, the person hits you and you take this amount of damage and then this and this and this, and then I move on. And then like I look at the chat and I'm like, everybody's screaming, displacer cloak, they had disadvantage to hitters. I'm like, ah. Then I have to go back and retcon the entire last round. You added it to the overlay. You did, yes. Fancy has in the section of the overlay that you cannot see. The bit that's, where is it? The bit that's down here, essentially, down here. It says, "Don't forget the bloody displacer cloak." I'm still gonna forget it. Displacer cloaks are one of my favourite pieces of gear. Yeah, to wear when you remember it and you are in person with the DM, so you can remind them in the same moment that they're going to attack you. But in a delayed chat situation where I'm describing things and not looking at the chat necessarily, it becomes a pain in the ass. I nearly got it to just change colour randomly, but that's a lot of work. I know it's a lot of Feywild rules, I know, but that's how I survived the Feywild without getting in an accidental pact with some sort of archfey, okay? It was hard not to thank people and to have to watch every single one of our words, but that's how the Fey work, so you have to be careful with the wording. She goes, right, okay, well... Okay, what am I saying? You said like 100 different things. I need the displacer cloak in red just covering up the whole screen, flashing on and off at all times. It's almost like a smart DM wouldn't give out magic items that he couldn't be bothered to remember in game. I thought it was fine until I gave it out, and I was like, oh man, this was a mistake. Just say, you have my braces. Meet me on the road outside of Fondirg tomorrow morning. All right. Are we asking for them? Are we telling them to just meet us outside of Fondirg? Is that what we're saying? Is that what we're going with? Any objections? Any other options? You have my braces. Meet me on the road outside of Fondirg tomorrow morning. Messages back.
Something like real Apis returned, wants braces, know who sent you, meets tomorrow morning at the entrance to Fondirg. Alright, yeah, sounds good. Might be too far to come here by tomorrow morning. Apis wishes to meet, the real Apis wishes to meet, be on the road north of Fondirg 3 hours after sunrise. Be a bit more specific, maybe. Bring them with you is probably also a smart idea to include. Alright. Tell Phopis to message the real Apis directly about a place to meet. That's pretty smart. Alright. So she goes, alright, I'll fucking hell, Apis, I'll come up with something. You're really scattered in your mind, you know that? Have you ever thought about the fact that you might have some sort of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder? You've got a lot of things that you change your mind about routinely. You often ask questions, and then before they get to answer them, you repeat a different question. Never mind. Rub his own mouthpiece. She now is not the time for testing. She traces another symbol in her mashed potatoes, now getting cold because she's playing with them rather than eating them. And she casts sending and says, "We know you're a changeling. We know who sent you. Apis wishes to meet. Bring their braces with you. Message them with a place to meet." And then she says, "Interesting." Their response was simply, "I don't have their braces. I have my braces." So good luck getting those back. It seems you have Fey bullshit on your hands. And with that, I'm going to leave the episode there. As Apis has discovered that they have some Fey bullshit on their hands to deal with, as some fucking Fey, arch-Fey bullshit has stolen your braces and has disappeared into the woods. You do get the impression that they are still alive then, and they do know which braces you're talking about, but they are not willing to meet with you to give them back. So thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see how you deal with that in the next one. Bye, everyone.
Hey, do you like my content, but YouTube can get a little bit much on the bandwidth, especially when you're out and about? Well, I actually have a Robert Hartley GM podcast available in the description below.